Today is the 31st of October, and last night we had a violent storm and heavy rains. The whole nursery got flooded, and although you see bright sunshine now, you look at all the water around here. The whole nursery was completely flooded out. And I'll just show you the last vestiges of the autumn color. These great big maples, some of them have lost their leaves completely. That Zelkova's lost all its leaves. This maple is hanging on. This parotia, which for the first time has had lovely color, half the leaves have gone on that. And look at all the bedraggled maples. Half the leaves have gone, but it's all part of the enjoyment of the changes of nature. You know how the seasons change, the leaves drop. We have a constant kaleidoscope almost of color. This one, which was really at its peak only 2 days ago, have virtually lost all its leaves. Some of the others have lost their leaves completely. And yet, if I take you to the field, we will start seeing the first of the autumn color on the maple trees in the field. I'm going to do a special project today. Sorry about all this messing up, dribs and drabs, showing little bits of the nursery and also doing a project. The project I'm going to do, I will reveal in a minute. Look at the waterlogged nursery. Water everywhere. But let's walk to the back of the nursery. I will appear in the picture in a minute. It's just that I couldn't resist photographing all this deluge that we've had last night. But fortunately, our nursery drains quite easily, so the water will stick around for 2 hours, and in 2 hours the water will disappear. So this is the main project today. I may not complete it. I tell you why I decided to do some work on this tree, because you will see that the leaves are about to shed. And this is a very rare form of Dawn Redwood, and this variety was, I think, bred or discovered about 40-50 years ago. And it's not just the ordinary Metasequoia glyptostroboides. The variety is called Pixie, and the foliage is really minuscule and small. But the tree is huge. This is absolutely huge tree. I managed to get this from a nursery friend of mine who, when he was building a new office, decided to dig these trees out, and I had been worrying him for years and years to let me have it. This poor gentleman has sadly passed away, and I got these trees from him 20 years ago. So this tree, I reckon, is at least 50 years old. Look at the spread. And I cut off all the branches. When I got the tree, it was about 8 feet tall. You can see how drastic the cut was over there. And this is every bit 4'6" high. And I want to emphasize the massive trunk there. And it's been in a pot ever since I got it from this gentleman. So it's been growing in a pot all that time, but I have cut the big branches off and waiting for the new branches to come. The new branches are coming, so I will do just a little bit of work. I will show you another one out in the field. So let's walk to the field and I will show you, and we can take a little walk. Let's keep the camera running because it's a nice sunny spell now. If we take a quick look at the field, you can see the maple trees in the distance just about starting to turn color. Now I'll take you to another area where I have another of those Metasequoias, and that one is also fairly interesting, but as I said, they're very shy to produce new branches. So I may not work on that one today, but I've been waiting for years and years, because after cutting the branches off, you've got to be patient for the new branches to grow. So let's come to this particular area. And this, by the way, are the japonicums. You can see such big trees, but all the leaves have shed. But we don't use japonicum so much because the leaves are rather large. So they're very colorful, but the leaves are large, so we prefer the palmatum. Now this tree, in case you are not familiar with it, this is the liquid amber. Many people confuse it with the Japanese maple, but it's not a Japanese maple. It is liquid amber, but beautiful color on that tree. Okay, this is the other pixie, and you can see the beautiful trunk on this tree. Look at that beautiful trunk. This is going to be a stunning tree, and I only need a few short branches and a bit of carving, and I will have a beautiful bonsai. Perhaps next year I will put it in a large bonsai pot and then see what happens to that. They get rather neglected here because they're out on the edge of the nursery and it seldom ever sees the light of day. While I'm here, I can show you some of these other trees that we developed. Many years ago, maybe about 20 or 30 years ago, I brought a lot of these beautiful Chinese quince, Cydonia sinensis. And look at it, part of the tree died, but the rest of the tree continues to live. And again, they have beautiful autumn color on their leaves. So I'm going to use that as a special project. So all these Chinese quince, you can see them growing here. And I'm restyling them. So many of them are really long-term projects, but you can see how I restyle them, and they're getting bits of shari. Look at those beautiful trunks there. So I don't just grow them in an ordinary style. I try to create character in them, but sadly they require a lot of patience and you have to wait a long time. While I'm here again, let me show you another beautiful maple, and this is a japonicum again. Look at the beautiful leaves. I forget the name of this, the name will come to me, but this japonicum is quite a common one, but it's not a palmatum. That is possible to use as bonsai material, but we normally use these large trees as garden trees. And wherever I turn, I see maple seeds. So these are japonicum seeds. So some trees don't produce a lot of seeds. So on this one, there are only like 8 seeds. And yet on the big trees that grow in the ground, we get hundreds and thousands of seeds. So this is how the trees are growing. You can see all the splashes of autumn color, the larches turning yellow. And so we go. And the ginkgo there, that big ginkgo tree, it's not at its peak of the color, it's just about turning. It's just about to turn golden. And this is the ordinary Dawn Redwood. Ordinary Dawn Redwood. Metasequoia glyptostroboides, more Dawn Redwood. So this is how we grow our trees. So after showing you a bit of this, and if we turn around, this is the Japanese beech, large Japanese beech, Fagus crenata, and we collect the seed to use for sowing. And again, while I'm passing, these were the beech trees that I got for free, and look at it in its lovely autumn color. I've shown several snippets of this past year. This is where I chopped it down. This is where the new leader is growing, and you can see how the bonsai is forming. Classic bonsai creation using the chop technique, creating a new leader. And all these are done in exactly the same way. This is another rare maple. This one, I always like to show it off. It's called Nishiki Gasane, which is a green leaf with golden variegation or spots, and the autumn color is like that. How beautiful is that? So let's get back to our main project, which is the massive great Big Pixie, and I will show you what the plan is for that tree. Most of these large projects, please don't expect me to complete it in a day. I'm not that sort of person where I do a demonstration to complete it in a couple of hours. These things, or most of my projects, takes years to produce. Like here, I waited 20 years after cutting off all the branches, them healing, and then waiting for new branches to grow. So that is the long process, you know. So because it's a deciduous tree, once you cut the branches off, you've got to be patient for the new branches to come. You can see how, where I cut the thick branches off, they've calloused so beautifully. Look at it. This is what takes time, the callousing. So they had big branches, but I cut them off, and now is the time. Now that I've got these thinner branches, I can use them. So the design of the tree is quite simple. I've more or less chosen this as the front because the spread is very nice over there. Nice tall tree. I will probably do a bit of carving there. I will wait for more of these to grow, and all I have to do is make the branches hang down. So these shoots which are sprouting upwards, they won't really have much of a role to play in the future design of the tree. So with most of these projects, it is really giving it very rough training and then seeing what happens. So, as I say, I'm not doing exhibition or refinement wiring. This is just wiring to guide the tree along. And when the structure is created, I will then deal with it and refine it at a later stage. These branches are very brittle. You only need to touch it and they fall off. So I have to accept that, but as they grow, they will produce new branches. So all I need to do is bring the branches hanging downwards. So no great shakes or no great rocket science involved. Again, branches are brittle. I just broke a little one. There's a leader there. Now, all these branches tend to shoot upwards, which I don't want. So I will probably keep that one and wait for the young shoots to grow, because it's going to be almost impossible to bend that. It wouldn't look right. So what I will do, you notice that this tree is growing in the greenhouse, so it's getting quite a lot of protection here. This can be grown this way. All that great big lump at the back. I don't really want too much of that. See, they break very easily. very often you've got to wait till the shoots are pliable. If they become too stiff to bend, then it could be a bit dangerous to try bending it because you'll only end up snapping it. I've tried air layering this tree because it's rare, but they are quite hard to propagate by air layering. Dawn Redwood as a species is normally quite, see I've broken it, it's so brittle. They are quite easy to air layer, but this particular variety is very difficult to air layer for some reason, I don't know why. So although within the same species, certain trees behave in a certain way, but the varieties don't always conform to what the general pattern of the species is. So the ordinary Metasequoia will air lay ever so easily. Within 2 weeks you'll get new roots, but this one you can probably try air laying for a couple of years and all it ever does is callus. So this is why I've not been working on this tree, because it has taken me so much time to get it to do the things I want it to do. So I'll just finish this and do a little more work with more wire. So I'm continuing to wire and I'm trying to let the design evolve as I go along. I hope these branches will grow longer, but you can see what's happening. Every time I touch the branch, these little branchlets are just breaking off. Look at all this breaking off. So this tree is not that easy to handle. They're not just leaves, they're actual small branches. Every time I touch them, they break off. So this is quite a tricky tree to handle. Now I'm growing this in the hope that I will create a thicker leader. And once this leader becomes thick, I will then deal with it again. So I'm just guiding it up in the right direction. These I will make sure I will wire them down. What to do with this is another question. It doesn't really fit into the design. I may just leave it to grow and see what happens, because we don't always have to make trees conform in a certain way. I know we prefer to have branches coming from the main trunk, so to get a branch coming from another branch may not quite look nice in the design, but again my approach is that let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I always say there's no rush. There is absolutely no rush. If it doesn't look right, I can cut it off. I think it's looking a bit top heavy. This can also look a bit top heavy. So that one I will probably take off. I will try and make cuttings from these. I've never tried, but because they are difficult to air layer, cuttings might also be difficult, but I will. That's the ideal size of shoot for making a cutting. So don't be greedy and use thick branches. If you use thick branches, they may not root so easily. So if this is the front of your tree here, this is the design. This, try and disregard, because ideally I want branches to grow low, coming down like that. Let me just wire that to give you some ideas to what the future will look like when this eventually grows and develops. see, as I touch it, these branchlets are just breaking off. So this tree has this nasty habit of losing young branches. So this really may come off later on, but I'm trying to get more branches there to fill up the conical shape. So I think the tree front may need to be slightly skewed like this. So that the front is there. So this is the future of this big tree. Hopefully these branches will grow like this, will grow like that. See, as I touch it, these branches are just falling off. So this is certainly a very tricky subject. And for those who like carving, you can try and carve it, but I prefer the carving and the rotting to come naturally. I don't like to do too much artificial stuff to make it look unnatural. So this is another large tree in the making. If this tree did air layer easily, I could have easily air layered the tree at this point and get a tree of this size, which may be more manageable. But I can tell you that I've tried in the past, but as I said, this particular variety called Pixie doesn't air layer easily. So this is what I've done to this tree so far, and let's see what happens next year, and we will follow the progress of this large bonsai. And we will also follow the progress of making cuttings from this. So there you go.